A couple weeks ago, we talked about Disney versus Desantis, and well, Disney has struck back. Find out more on today's episode of Annual Pass. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Annual Pass. This is the podcast. We talk about all things theme parks, rides, shows, attractions, news. If it happens in a theme park, it happens here on Annual Pass. I am your host, Jack Pattillo, and of course, joining me, as always, is the lovely, talented, beautiful co-host, BK. Hi, Beaks.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. What about you?
I'm doing okay.
Nice.
Thank you very much for asking. Welcome, everyone. It's good having you back. Thank you so much. We've got a fun episode today. We got a follow-up episode today.
Oh, I'm excited.
Which a lot of people have been asking about. A lot of people have been curious about. But before we dive into that, don't forget to follow us on all the social media stuff. We're annual_pass over on Twitter and on Instagram. Annual Pass Pod over on TikTok. And at youtube.com/annual pass, you can see our beautiful faces live and in person. We're in our 5th studio at this point again.
I call this the temp audio space because it doesn't feel permanent.
Yeah.
But I'd like it to. It's cozy.
Yeah, the last couple episodes have been recorded in here because our other temporary space that we're in before apparently has mold in it. So,
oh, no. Well, I'm glad they took us out.
Yeah, so I'm sure if we got a little loopy in some of those episodes, that's probably the case.
That explains so much.
Yeah. It's all been a little bit wild over here. But anyway, we got a fun one today. We're going to be covering some more news stuff. So we did an episode a couple weeks ago talking about news, specifically the Ron DeSantis versus Disney stuff. Well, so a whole bunch of stuff has happened since then that we're going to follow up on and continue on. So, but before we dive into that, let's talk about some shorter news stories. Oh yeah, store.roosterteeth.com, buy some merchandise. We're going to talk about some shorter news stories that you can, you might be interested in, and then we'll dive into the big beef, the big steak.
The big beef
of the episode. So, number one, let's just talk about some stuff over at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, in the studio park side of things. VillainCon Minion Blast is coming soon. Have you seen photos of it?
No.
Oh, so it's almost done.
What?
So all the facade and everything, the building itself is pretty much finished. It still has the work walls up.
Okay.
But it looks like that thing is dang near complete. So I would not be shocked if by the time this episode comes out, which will be sometime in like the second week of May, those walls may be down. They still haven't announced specifically when it's going to be open, when Minion Blast is going to be open, but they said summer 2023.
Okay, so I mean that's rapidly approaching.
I mean, typically you get a couple weeks of like soft openings,
yeah,
so I wouldn't.
Come.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it opens very soon. But not only that, across from Minion Blast, the old Monsters Cafe. Remember they tore that thing, or they didn't tear it down, but it is no longer
remodel type thing?
They're remodeling it.
Okay.
That looks like it's pretty close to going as well, and it looks like based off the theming people can see from behind the work walls, it's gonna be like a small little city, and even that I think Alicia Stella over at Theme Park Stop noticed that one of the areas kind of over where Shrek and Donkey were initially, like directly from the exit of the old Shrek 4D area, they are building the Bake My Day sweet shop. Yeah, which exists in Beijing already. They have a Minion Land in Beijing, and they have the Bake My Day sweet shop, and all of this architecture matches that. So
they're really committing to the Minions.
Yeah, they're making a little Minions mini land right there at the front of the park. Oh, you're not a Minion fan?
I was.
You don't like banana?
I do.
And bello.
But it's in small doses.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could just handle a mini land.
It is interesting that the way the studios park is built, it's not like a spoken hub type thing. It's not like you walk in and it's kind of you split out from everything else. Universal's interesting in that way that, even like Islands of Adventure, it's a big circle. You basically have to walk a linear path around the whole thing. And studios not necessarily have to do that, but for the most part you kind of do. You sort of get in and then you kind of walk down towards like New York and then over towards the back and like Men in Black and then loop back around. There's some mixing and whatnot in between it, but there's no sort of rhyme or reason to that part.
No.
And it looks like Epic Universe, they're sort of taking more of a spoken hub type thing where you walk in and then you can kind of go where you want to go. And with this big central land, it's going to be really cool. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. So there you go. That's some Minions news for you, all of you Minion fans out there. If you're a Minion fan, let us know in the comments and tell BK why she is wrong.
Yeah, put me on. Tell me what Minion is your favorite. How do you differentiate the Minions?
I like the yellow one with overalls.
Yes, that's the homie.
That one's my favorite.
Okay,
he's the best. Okay, moving on to another little bit of news. So this already happened, but hey, yesterday for us recording was May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yes,
and also with you. So with that, Disneyland out in California, they have brought Hyperspace Mountain back. So Hyperspace Mountain is they take Space Mountain and they retheme it to Star Wars. Yeah.
What?
They've done it for a number of years. As a matter of fact, the Paris park, when I went over there, I went to Disneyland Paris. There was Hyperspace Mountain at the time, and that one does flips and stuff. And so it was like X-Wings and like TIE fighters fighting, and like it was really, really cool.
I'm freaking out right now. Space Mountain?
So Space Mountain is Hyperspace Mountain, and it's going to be Hyperspace Mountain until June 4th out in California.
I gotta go. I don't have that long.
You got a little less than a month. You can make it.
I don't know.
I believe you. I'm sure it'll come back, though. Don't worry. Okay. They're doing the Disneyland Star Wars nights right now. I watched some live streams from it the other night.
So cool.
Yeah, and they basically the Star Wars nights, they just throw every single Star Wars character in the park somewhere.
What?
And so like there was a whole area with like Captain Phasma and a bunch of stormtroopers, and I saw like Emperor Palpatine was around, and apparently the old school Luke and Leia, like Star Wars, like New Hope, Luke and Leia were out and like wandering around and stuff. There's some really, really cool stuff.
I've seen none of those.
Yeah.
I need to go.
You need to go.
Oh my gosh, why don't I know about these things?
I don't. We're the whole podcast about theme parks, Beaks. What's wrong?
I'm sorry, I failed you. I failed the pass holders.
And speaking of character interactions, one new character action is coming to both Disneyland and Hollywood Studios in Orlando. Ariel from the new movie.
Oh, yeah, I read this.
Yeah, she's doing a meet and greet. So they're having the new Ariel. She's going to be doing a meet and greet over at at Disneyland or California Adventure. She's going to be at the Promenade. Oh, excuse me. In Disneyland, she's going to be at the Promenade near It's a Small World. So she'll be out that area. I don't know how they'll set her up because I'm assuming she'll be in fish form, right? I don't think she'll be walking around because she's a mermaid. And then over at Walt Disney World, she's going to be at Walt Disney Presents at Hollywood Studios, which I think used to be one man's dream. I'm not 100% sure if that is the case, though. Ooh. So you can go say hi to Ariel for us, and if you go shoot a video, tell her something like, hi, Annual Pass.
Yeah, tell her that BK from Annual Pass loves her.
And I think that it begins late May, so I don't know when that's happening. So hopefully pretty soon. So let us know if you meet Ariel. I'm very curious about that.
Please take pictures.
Please do. All right, enough of the small stuff. Beaks, are you ready to dive into it?
Yeah.
Because today we are covering more of the Desantis versus Disney situation going on. In the last episode, again, we're trying to keep this apolitical, where I'm not trying to get into the politics of it. You can make your own decisions and whatnot. There's fighting either way. I just kind of want to give you the overview, kind of let you know what's going on. A lot of people were happy about it because like they didn't know what was happening, and we sort of explained what was happening. Interesting thing happened, BK. We released that episode on April 26th, 2023. Do you know what happened on April 26th, 2023?
No, what happened?
Disney sued Desantis.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we released our episode. Like, here's all the information you need to know. That day, Disney turned around and sued Desantis and the new board of the Central Tourism District of Central Florida, whatever they called it.
The new homies that are in position from the new deal that Desantis did.
Yeah, because basically that board, like we talked about that board, basically they got they sort of got kneecapped immediately because Disney made a deal with the old Reedy Creek board where they were able to the old Reedy Creek board basically gave all of the power back to Disney before they were dissolved, and then the new board showed up and they were like, we have no power because the old board gave it all to Disney. And so then they basically started doing all these threats and whatnot, and the DeSantis came out and said a few things, and then Disney's like, all right, we've had enough, and they sued. So this from NewYorkTimes.com. Disney has quietly maneuvered to protect itself, enraging the governor and his allies. On Wednesday, however, the company decided enough was enough. Disney filed a First Amendment lawsuit against Mr. DeSantis and a 5-member board that oversees government services at Disney World in federal court, claiming a, quote, targeted campaign of government retaliation. So this is the big thing. This is the big thing the reason why Disney is going after him. So they're not going after him for monetary purposes or anything like that. They're basically going after them just to negate all of the new lawsuit stuff or the new stuff the board is trying to do. They just want to say like, hey, leave the correct or leave the settlements or not settlements, the agreements that we made with the old board intact. Let us do our thing and stop picking on us. They're not looking for money or anything. They're just like, hey, just back off. And
stop. Cease and desist. Leave us alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, relax.
From the article, quote, in America, the government cannot punish you for speaking your mind, Disney said in its complaint, which was filed in U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida. Disney had criticized the parental rights in education law, which opponents labeled, quote, don't say gay, the don't say gay bill we talked about last time, and which prohibits classroom discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity for students through the 3rd grade. The DeSantis administration recently expanded that through the the 12th grade as well. So now that bill where basically you're not allowed to talk about, homosexuality in school, it has now gone all the way up to high school.
Until you graduate.
Until you graduate. So you can be an 18-year-old person and not allowed to talk about your gay parents is what it comes down to. Or if you're a teacher, you're not allowed to talk about your partner who might be the same sex. And so that, again, not diving into politics, just saying that's what the bill says. The lawsuit accused Mr. Desantis of a, quote, relentless campaign to weaponize government power against Disney in retaliation for expressing a political viewpoint. The complaint added, quote, now threatens Disney's business operations, jeopardizes its economic future in the region, and violates its constitutional rights. So Disney essentially is arguing that, hey, we're like, according to the government, corporations are people. People have First Amendment rights to say whatever they want to say. They spoke up against the Don't Say Gay bill, and now the government of Florida is specifically attacking them as a corporation, which is illegal. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You can't attack someone based on their right of free speech. They can say whatever they want. And so, quote, Disney regrets that it has come to this, but having exhausted efforts to seek a resolution, this is from the lawsuit, the company is left with no choice but to file this lawsuit to protect its cast members, guests, and local development partners from a relentless campaign to weaponize government power. A stand smaller businesses and individuals might not be able to take when the state comes after them for expressing their own views. In America, the government cannot punish you for speaking your mind. So again, Disney's basically saying like, hey, we're a giant corporation. We can fight this, but if you're a small company, if you're a bake shop or something, and you're like, you make a stand and the government decides to attack you specifically, you're not going to have the power to do it. So Disney is centering themselves as like, look at us being, the good guy protecting the free speech rights of everyone. It's a very interesting angle. I didn't think that's what the lawsuit was going to be when you said it. Yeah. And then like the more you're explaining it, it made sense. Yeah. Right? They want this to go to Supreme Court, don't they? I mean, they want this to be a big case. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like basically they're saying, like you can't attack a specific person. The government cannot retaliate against a specific person, which is exactly what is going on right here. Disney seeks the, quote, legislative declaration, that's an action that void a developer agreement, to be declared unlawful, declare previous contracts remain in effect, and declare Senate 4C and House 4B bills unlawful because they were enacted in retaliation for Disney speech protected by the First Amendment. So, and the big thing about Disney, again from the article, but its real influence came in the form of jobs and economic impact. Disney World is the nation's largest single-site employer. Roughly 75,000 employees work there in one spot in the Orlando area and attracts 50 million guests annually, powering Florida's all-important tourism industry. Yeah. That's the thing is like Florida is run mainly on tourism dollars. Oh, yeah. And their governor decided to go after the largest. Anyway, Disney paid. Okay, here's the interesting thing. Disney paid and collected a total of $1.2 billion in state and local taxes in 2022, according to company disclosures. The company recently said that it's earmarked $17 billion for expansion spending at the resort over the next decade, growth that would create an additional 13,000 jobs at the company. So it's not like they're leaving the state. You know, they're basically saying, we have all of the stuff. We're making investments, but you're coming after us right now. Right. And it's definitely one of those things where it's like, what do you... Well, I mean, you see them bringing all of these rides and attractions from their international parks and bringing them to the States, bringing them to Florida and doing them bigger and better. Like, I just don't... They're not. You think they're not reinvesting? I mean, that's the thing. Up until recently, Disney and the government of Florida have had a really good relationship. It's been because Disney, again, you have to be sort of dull to not understand that Disney is responsible for a ton of money coming to the state of Florida. Yeah. So why do you want to poke the bear? And then up until recently, it's been fine. But then we have a new governor who's very much wanting to make political statements, wanting to be, look at me, look what I'm doing. I'm fighting against woke culture, whatever that means. And he decided to pick a fight with the largest company, one of the largest companies on the planet, and also the largest single site employer in the whole U.S., which it gives tax money to his state. I don't get it, but... Anyway, Scott Gustin on Twitter. It's Gustin. Fantastic person to follow. If you're curious about this stuff or really just news and information about Orlando and all this stuff going on, follow him, Scott Gustin on Twitter, no spaces. I've got a bunch of good quotes from him. So he goes to a bunch of these meetings and we'll post clips and links and kind of show you what's going on. Cool. So he posted a link a little while ago. It's DeSantis talking about Disney in August of 2022. Quote, you're free to indulge in that type of view and ideology, but that's not consistent with our values in the state of Florida. So we took action. And now because of what we did, Disney's not going to have its own government anymore. That is a clear case of him saying, you said something we're not happy with, we're going after you.
That was in a meeting?
That was in a public speech. That was a public speech. And Scott actually posted the full speech he made. It was a few minutes long. So pretty clear.
I know. Like, the more you say these things, it lays out evidence that, like, none of this would have been happening if it wasn't for this pivotal moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I mean, there's so much stuff. So in Disney's lawsuit, they actually go through and they make a lot of quotes like this. Like, I think a part of that speech is in the actual lawsuit.
Oh, wow.
Like, basically giving evidence of, like, here's the government specifically attacking us for what we said. And also, even DeSantis released a book recently where in the book he describes the process of talking with other state legislatures to get them ready to sue Disney. Like, he was prepping them to be like, we're going after the largest employer in the state. Are you with me? And it's like, okay, buddy, you're a little bit on point there. So from apnews.com, this is May 1st, or moving on a little bit, May 1st, Orlando, Florida, days after Disney sued Florida's governor in federal court for what it described as retaliation for opposing the state's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Disney World's governing board, made up of Ron DeSantis appointees, filed a lawsuit Monday against the entertainment giant. So they countersued. So Disney sued Florida, and now the board and DeSantis are countersuing Disney. So they're just back and forth now. Here you go. The Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, that's the CFTOD, sued Disney in state court in Orlando, and board members voted to defend itself in federal court in Tallahassee, where the entertainment company filed its lawsuit last Wednesday. As punishment, DeSantis took over Disney World's self-governing district through legislation passed by Florida lawmakers and appointed a new board of supervisors that would oversee municipal services for the sprawling theme parks and hotels. But before the new board came in, the company pushed through 11th hour agreements that stripped the new supervisors of much of that authority. So that's what we were talking about before. Disney made a public deal with the old board, and everything happened. In response, DeSantis and the Florida lawmakers vowed to pass legislation that would repeal the agreements and end exemption for Disney parks when it comes to ride inspections by the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The agriculture agency is responsible for inspecting amusement rides in Florida, but an exception was carved out for the state's largest theme park operators such as Disney and Universal Destinations and Experiences, which do their own safety inspections. Under the proposal, the exemption would end for rides in special government districts, which basically targets just Disney World. Quote, no corporation is above the law and the people of this state, DeSantis said Monday at a news conference in Titusville along Florida's Space Coast, out on the east side of it. Board member Ron Perry described being mocked in the media and getting hate mail. So this is someone from the Todd saying, during the public comment portion of Monday's meeting, a man who has a Disney timeshare told the board members, quote, you guys are terrible and I think you should all resign.
Oh my God.
So they had a meeting on that day when they announced that they were going to sue. Again, Scott Custon was there and pointed out the only public comment during today's meeting was from a Disney Vacation Club owner who was upset about increased taxes, who said, quote, I was for DeSantis until he started this stupid war. So, and also one thing that Scott pointed out, he had a Magic Band Plus on and he couldn't figure out which one, or he looked closely, figured out that it was the grumpy Magic Band. So, the one guy who spoke publicly was able to wear the grumpy Magic Band. Anyway, so basically this is now the Florida board saying we're going to sue Disney, saying like, well, we can do is legal. And so they're fighting back and they're suing. So lawsuits are flying back and forth now.
Oh my gosh.
And one thing about the Florida lawsuits are happening, there's two lawsuits, one going to federal, one going to state. That's coming out of taxpayer money from Floridians. So
to do the lawsuit, like the lawyers that DeSantis is using and like all the judges and all that stuff, like jury peeps, like I don't know how any of that works.
Well, the jury be decided, but all of the lawyers are going to be paid for by Florida taxpayer money is what it comes down to. So if you are a taxpayer in Florida, your money is going towards suing Walt Disney World right now. So, yeah. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. So right now, so this came out yesterday. So this is from May 4th, from My News 13, which is a Florida our Florida news site. Tallahassee, Florida. Florida lawmakers passed a transportation bill Wednesday with an amendment that would make Disney World's monorail system subject to state inspections. So this is where it gets really weird, where they're starting to really they make laws that are like, oh, this is for everyone, but they qualify it down to where it's like, oh no, this is specifically for Disney. The amendment to House Bill 1305, originally found its companion in Senate Bill 1250, seeks to give the state authority over the resort's transportation system. Although the amendment doesn't mention Disney by name, it does reference a system that specifically applies to Disney World. The amendment would require the Florida Department of Transportation to establish safety standards for any public or private, quote, fixed guideway system that operates, quote, within an independent special district created by a local act which has boundaries within 2 contiguous counties, which is Disney.
So if it was in one place, though, you're good.
Yeah. So this is like they crafted it specifically because, let me finish this article. Disney World is located in a special district that spans across 2 bordering counties, Orange and Osceola. The resort's monorail system, which opened in 1971, provides transportation to and from Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and several nearby resort hotels. The amendment would also require the suspension of monorail service during safety inspections. Quote, inspectors must follow departmental safety protocols during safety inspections, including requiring the suspension of system service to ensure safety and welfare of inspectors and the traveling public during such inspections, the amendment read. So basically what happened was, this is for a fixed system. This is basically monorail is what it comes down to. You know what? You know another monorail that exists in Florida?
Yeah. The good old one that takes you to the terminals.
That's right.
At the airport.
At MCO, at the airport, there is a monorail system. It's the APM, the Automated People Mover. I think now they've changed the name of it, actually. But anyway, that's a monorail system. But because the area where the airport is
in one county,
isn't underneath a special district and it's in one county. So that one's fine. That's okay. We won't worry about you. But Disney, on the other hand, it's so blatant and obvious when it's like you're just crafting things. We're dealing with something like that in Texas right now, where there's a whole new bill going on where they can overturn elections based on like issues with paper ballots, and it's only for counties that have more than 2.7 million citizens living in them, which there is one county in Texas that has over 2.7 million people living in them, and it's it's Houston. And so basically, because Houston is one of the most concentrated areas of Democratic voters, the Republican House in Texas is saying like, oh, we want to be able to overturn that. That's getting so political.
Much, though.
I apologize. That's the whole thing. Anyway,
well, it's all these stipulations and it's like targeted attacks.
Things.
Yeah. Crafted is a better word because it's meticulous. Yeah. The way they have to write it and word it. I'm just like, I don't know. You couldn't pay me enough money to look at all the words in the legal documents. Yeah, it is wild how much stuff is going into this to like really try to craft these laws and bills to sort of punish one company. And when it comes down to it, it's Disney. Disney has arguably the best lawyers on the planet. Like it's such an odd thing for them. I mean, we mentioned it before that, the state of Florida going after Disney. It's like this will not end well for DeSantis and his friends. And also it's also the thing too, it's like, the presidential elections are next year, and DeSantis so far hasn't announced that he's running for president, mainly initially because in the state of Florida, if you announce that you're running for president, you have to step down from any office you're in. Really? Yeah. I didn't know that. Is that only in Florida?
Well, every state has their own decisions.
Okay.
But in Florida, if you announce that you're running for president, you basically have to give up your seat.
Wow.
Recently, the Florida legislature passed a law saying that, hey, you can run for president and not step down if you're the governor. Yeah. So again, DeSantis hasn't announced whether or not he's going to run yet. He just made an international tour where he went to Japan. I want to say he went to.
Why is the governor of Florida traveling to Japan on a campaign?
Great question. And so he was actually, I want to say he was in Japan when there were floods in Fort Lauderdale down in southern Florida.
Oh yeah.
And he was in Japan, or maybe he was in Ohio at that time. He's basically out of the state, and instead of going and helping his
floods,
state, he was busy campaigning. And even like the mayor of the Fort Lauderdale area was like, yeah, we haven't heard from the governor at all. So anyway, again, not trying to get political with it. Make your own decisions. Like maybe he had a good reason for it, but so Disney right now is in this weird situation of what are we going to do? Like, I mean, Disney has sued, Florida has now countersued, and now we're just kind of sitting back and watching this happen. The question is, does all this go away once the 2024 elections are over?
You think he just drops it?
I think personally, I believe DeSantis is using this to show that he's fighting against woke culture and big business, which is weird because Republicans have typically helped business, and this is sort of the direct reverse of that. So, but I think basically once all the dust settles, whether or not DeSantis gets the nomination to run as Republican presidential nominee next year, I think once that happens, this all kind of goes away. And I think, DeSantis will be here for the next few years. Disney's going to be there for forever.
That is true.
Disney's not going anywhere.
Right.
And, there has been a lot of talk.
100 years, baby, 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk of people saying, well, Disney should just move. Sounds a lot easier.
Just pick up all of Disney and put it over here. No.
I mean, when you think about it, Tron, which just opened back in April, that attraction, which was essentially a copy-paste attraction, it was built out in Shanghai and brought to the States. That attraction to build was $500 million, roughly. And that's just one attraction that already existed, and they're building from scratch. Now, think of lifting an entire theme park or rebuilding an entire theme park. Like something like Epic Universe right now that Universal's doing. Like, the amount of money going into that has got to be just
It's
outstanding.
astronomical.
Yeah, it is absolutely wild. So the likelihood of Disney moving, very, very slim. The likelihood of Disney opening another park, though, not as slim. Like, I could see Disney doing something like opening up another park. I mean, we've talked about it before, but I could see them opening a park up in Texas because they want to get somewhere that's central to the country.
Yeah.
And, anytime Disney's going to build a park, it's going to be more south just because they don't want to deal with
weather.
With weather.
Yeah.
With snow and whatnot. So, if they're going to open one, Texas has a lot of space, a lot of land. And we're relatively business friendly. We have our own issues with our own governor. It's kind of,
maybe Disney's used to it by then.
That's true. But again, Disney will be around much longer than any of these governors and legislators. So
I'm going to say, if I were Disney, I don't know, I just wouldn't back down. Even if DeSantis backed down after whatever happens, I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
I have too much emotion to be in charge of these things, Jack. This is why I couldn't be a decision maker.
You'd be like, listen,
I'd be like, all right, come on.
Let me talk to your mom.
Let me talk to your mom and find out who hurt you, all right? I need to know. Let's unpack this.
Yeah. But it's been interesting watching all this stuff. I mean, even if you're just interested in political theater, this is fascinating stuff because this is literally a government going after one of the largest companies in the U.S.
And this is some Game of Thrones stuff.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. I mean, really, you can fall on either side of this equation, but still, it's fun to just kind of watch. Disney also recently announced, or Disney has opened up. They're doing their first. I think we talked about it, but they're doing their first official Pride nights.
Oh yeah.
At Disney. So Disney's always had gay days, which has always been an unofficial thing. I remember working the gay days; they were the best. It's like everyone shows up in their red shirts, and it's like everyone's super friendly. And essentially, it's just an open, invitation for anyone to show up and kind of be a part of this thing. Disney has now made it official. So out in California, they're having official Pride nights where they've apparently the first few sold out immediately.
Yeah.
There's I think they're all sold out by now. But they announced it pretty much as soon as DeSantis came in and started making all these like rules and regulations. They're like, cool, we're supporting gay people.
Double down. Listen.
Cool. All right. And now hearing, before Disney's always been kind of quiet about political stuff. They've really not put their toe into things. That's where all this kind of started with their former CEO, Bob Chapek. Waited a bit too long to kind of come out against the whole Don't Say Gay bill.
Right.
When he did, that's when DeSantis sort of attacked back and retaliated. Now Bob Iger, who is the current CEO, he's a temporary CEO. He was the one before Chapek. Chapek left. Bob Iger took back over. Iger's now just poking the bear. He's just having fun with it.
I mean, come on.
And I mean, it's the way they're phrasing it. The way they're saying things we are a big company, so we can fight this. But if we were a smaller company, maybe we couldn't. So he's being very smart about the way they're approaching this stuff. And he is just straight up saying DeSantis is being, negative towards Florida and Florida business. And he's just it's been fun again
They're
to read about this.
They're painting a mighty good picture. That's all I gotta say.
So I would highly recommend, if you are interested in all this stuff, follow Scott Gustin on Twitter. Alicia Stell over at Theme Park Stop has been posting stuff about this. Also, she's been posting a lot of amazing content about the anti-trans bills that are happening in Florida right now. They're doing a whole lot of support. As a matter of fact, in June, Theme Park Stop and a bunch of other people, including Dave Kopp, friend of the podcast, they're doing some streams raising money for various charities out there.
Beautiful.
And they're doing a D&D stream where I should look this up because it is very, very cool. D&D Dave Cobb charity. Let's see if I can find it real quick. All right, so here we go. So Ian from Theme Park Stop, who's awesome, he is doing a Dungeons and Dragons. So it's Dunge and Drag Queens.
Oh my
Dungeons and Drag
God.
Queens, which is based off a module apparently that's been out there. But you can make donations to benefit like players. So you can like if you make a certain donation, you get them stuff like magic items or miscellaneous items. Or you can like also if you donate $200, you can create a non-player character with the DM that can be part of their game when they do it. So this is happening. They are streaming it on June 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can follow Dave Cobb about that, or Ian, who is CT Freak Show on Twitter. And so check that out. That is super cool. So very much I support all that stuff, and it is fantastic. And I love seeing them work together. I love seeing our little universe all like blend with each other.
I'll connect. Everybody's so homies cool. and homies. It's so awesome.
Very, very cool. And also speaking of homies, our friend Disney Dan was out in Epcot filming something. He told me about it. It looks really, really cool. And I tried to send Beaks to go find him.
I couldn't.
You were within probably 100 feet of him at some point.
I was looking and I'm looking and nothing was found, but it was a search.
Okay.
And a storm came. That's all I can say.
Okay. All right. So anyway, Disney Dan's got some cool content coming out. Check out his stuff. But that's pretty much going to do it for this episode as far as looking at what's going on with all this Desantis stuff. So this is round 2. So I'm sure there will be more.
Ding, ding, ding.
I know there's something I'm missing. There was one thing I was like, oh, I got to talk about that. But I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. I should really take notes for this show, I suppose. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Let us know what you think in the comments about this stuff, because I'm very curious to see, again, I'm like, if you enjoy this sort of look at things and sort of us focusing on the news and whatnot. We're looking at doing more stuff like this, and also I gotta let you know right now. So next week's episode, we are not going to be doing an episode next week because I'm actually going out of town. I'm going to Australia for a few weeks for a family vacation, and I got like I think I got sick or like something happened. Basically, we weren't able to film enough in advance, so the next 2 episodes are going to be delayed by 1 week. So there won't be an episode next week, but the week after there'll be an episode, and then the week after that there won't be an episode. The week after that will be an episode. So taking a couple little mini breaks here. We've been doing over 2 years of this stuff. Come on, give us a break. So heads up, there won't be an episode next week, but there will be the one after that. And
nice.
So, but that'll do it for us today. Make sure to go to store.roosterteeth.com, pick up some merchandise. We have some annual pass merchandise you can grab. Beaks is rocking the spooky shirt.
Spooky monsters.
Love it. And also don't forget to follow us on social media. We are annual_pass on Twitter and on Instagram. We're Annual Pass Pod over on TikTok, and we're at youtube.com/annualpass. If you want to see us, BK, do you feel like you learned anything today?
Yeah, I learned that Disney don't play.
Nah. Disney, in fact, does not play. That is true. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and tuning in. We love you guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
See ya.